You're live.
All right.
All right.
So that's good. Welcome, folks. So today's class here at Waters Garden Center, thanks for tuning in, everyone, is on ground covers and climbers. So basically things that are two-dimensional. They climb, go up, do this kind of stuff. There's a place for that, especially with as much rain as we've had this year. Erosion control, just softening things up. And the building boom that's going on, neighbors are right on top of you, so you kind of want to use vines to kind of help soften that block wall, make it feel more like a secret garden instead of the sterile, Russian prison block. So that's what vines do for you. And I can get into some artistry, pruning, how to make them grow faster, how to get them to bloom better. So we'll go over all that. But it's real specific to climbers, ground covers, that topic. Okay, and then we can go off if we need to. But then I've got some great examples of vines and ground covers, shade and sun for you, because I know we've got some folks up in the pines that they're in more of the shaded areas. We've got folks out in the valleys, they're more sun, so we'll kind of cover both of those. I've got two handouts for you, and I forgot to bring the sign-up sheet, Ken, or Jeremy, did I? Yeah, I emailed that to you so you can get the folks online, but it's ground covers that grow in the shade, and then the best annual bloomers that are climbers. And I have not written an article on the best, like the top vines for the area. So I've added that to my writing list for probably next spring. So I apologize for that. But I think between and out, I'm writing about individual vines. And I don't want to send you like 10 different links to things. So if you're on part of our garden club, look for that probably next spring. I'll just put it in one list. That way it's always available digitally through our website. So kind of sorry about that, but I got two things for you, shade and then annuals, and then fertilizing. It's time to fertilize. You want to fertilize everything in the yard, especially ground covers and vines, by Halloween. So you've got a little window here, but everything in the yard is the most important feeding of the entire year is right now. The autumn is the most important. I can't stress that enough, especially if we go into winter's kind of weird here. It gets real dry and real wet, and there's snow and things rot, and it's just all kinds of stuff. It's hard on plants, but you help them harden up, help them take all that food and stores it up in the root structure. They become much more robust. Therefore, you have less problems next spring. My name is Ken Lane. I own the garden center. So I'm second generation owner. And so my father-in-law started the garden center back in 1962. So Harold Waters, that's how Ken Lane comes to own Waters Garden Center. My wife is a Waters, so that's kind of how the whole thing goes. He retired in 2002, and then we've just been carrying the legacy forward. And then I've got my kids working the business. Jeremy is my son-in-law. I've got three daughters, Megan and Mackenzie, and Kate. So all six of us work in the garden. So truly a family garden center. We put on a much bigger show than we really are. But we know plants, so we've been doing landscaping and gardening in the area, like right here, for a very long time, many, many decades. Well, 60 years. As of next March, 60 years would be our anniversary. So a few things that we've learned. Everything you've learned in other places as far as gardening goes, just erase, reboot, start over, because it's not the same here. And what you'll find is the alkalinity of the water stunts the growth. So you might have grown, let's say this honeysuckle here, this is a beautiful, it's probably the #1 seller. Let me get this so they can see it better online. Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
That look okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And easier on my back. This is a honeysuckle, Hall's honeysuckle. This is the one that you grew up as a grandkid. Your grandkids, or no, when you're with your grandparents 20 years ago, you pick off that flower and suck on the stamen, and it has little sweet flowers. Just really fast growing. Deer don't eat it. It's got every full sun. It can go ground cover or grow up trellises and fences. It's a really robust plant. Semi-evergreen, we call it. If we get a real cold winter, it'll defoliate or deciduous. But most years, it's got foliage on it. It'll keep its foliage. So it's got a lot of interest for a lot of time, and it grows feet a year. So you're to plant this size at the base of a 6-foot fence. By the end of next year, it would be up to the top and over, and then growing up over 2-3 feet above that. So I don't know if I'm ready for questions already.
It's my first time.
Let me just try to keep on track. We'll come back to that. So what you might have grown this in other parts of the country, and it grows even faster. Here with that alkaline water, it goes a little slower. So the fertilizer you're wanting to use with that, Paul's honeysuckle, we got an interactive class today, right on. So
that's the benefit of coming to the live class.
you got it. Hey, virtual in person, our VIP customers, we love them here at Waters Garden Center. So here they might be a little bit yellow. So the fertilizer that you're using needs to be more acidic. You want acid kind of fertilizers. Other parts of the country, every other part of the country is their water, their soil is very acidic. So they're always trying to add lime. They're always trying to sweeten the soil. They're always trying to lower the pH. Here we don't do that, or you could kill this thing. So it just goes yellow before the pH drops. And so if your plants look a little off color right now, it's because the pH has crept up a little bit, and it will affect how fast the vines will grow. Your plants will grow, but especially the vines, because they grow so fast. So this is probably #1 seller plant. Full sun. But when I say full sun, I'm really talking about 6 hours or more at this elevation is considered full sun. So it's pretty intense. The sun at this elevation is more, we're just closer to the sun. We're closer to God's country. It's just brighter, more intense, and your plants will feel that sun. The great thing about vines is if they don't get enough sun, they'll simply grow up whatever you got and grow to the sun. So they'll kind of grow up there, they'll make it happen for you. So one of my designers, most beautiful ranch, he's designed, he grew some of this vine right here. Where was it? Right here. Not that one, chocolate vine, this one. He grew this vine at the base. This is an evergreen vine. Probably one of the fastest growing vines. This is probably 2 weeks worth of growth. Just boom, it just grows like crazy. It's called chocolate vine, or Echinacea is how you spell it. You come up and look at take pictures of the signs and that kind of stuff later. But evergreen has a little flower on it, rather insignificant, but very fragrant. So you'll smell this in like April and May, in full bloom. That's one of the few vines that's truly evergreen that will take full sun. This will grow in the shade. I've got proof of this. Deer do not eat this. Elk. We've been to the Skull Valley. We had herds of elk coming down to Kirkland Creek. They would not eat this plant. So it's pretty much bulletproof. Grows really fast. Sometimes too fast for some areas. So for me, I grow this at the base of my stem wall. So I got about a 6-foot wall for the patio that holds the patio up. And it just kind of looks sterile. So I put a wrought iron bench right in front of the wall. So it grows from the ground 6 feet, another 4 feet up, covers the bench, and I shape it to look like the bench. It's pretty stunning. It's pretty cool. The bench is not meant to sit in, it's just an art piece that this plant helped me fulfill. My designer planted the base of a emery oak or scrub oak, great big trunk, one of the big oaks, not the shrubby ones. And so it grew it at the base, it grew up the trunk and spewed out the top, almost like a fountain at the top, reaching for the sun, just reached up. So he's using that vine as an artistry type of effect. Many times I'll plant these with like a clematis. Clematis is one of the great big, many colored flowers, has a flower about like this big. Grows really well, but it's deciduous. The flowers are stunning, but the foliage is rather insignificant. You plant it for the flower. This has got great foliage, but the flowers are rather insignificant. I'll plant them together, let them grow through each other. So now I've got clematis popping out through the vines. That's a trick you can use over and over and over again with different kinds of vines. You can combine them, and they just kind of cross-pollinate each other. But Echinacea, full sun, fast growing, animals don't eat it. It's got everything that we want. This is #1 seller as far as color goes. Everyone knows climbing roses. Climbing roses, they come in a lot of different colors, and roses do really, really well at this elevation. They do better than, let's say, the Midwest, where you have to protect them, put fencing over them and insulate them with leaves. It's just a lot of work. We don't do any of that. It'll grow up 10 feet. I've grown it down barbed wire fence. It'll grow at any elevation you want. Here's the secret with roses that I've got a whole class on nothing but roses. But climbers, They put on these long tendrils from them, long canes. And so grow it out down that fence line or up that ladder or trellis. As soon as it gets up to the top where you want it to be, simply take that lead, bend it down, and it will start to bloom just like that. The entire branch will just start to bloom. It will stop growing and start blooming.
You're not cutting it, you're bending.
You're not cutting it, just tie it. I'll just take it, just bend it down like this, stops growing. I don't know why it does that, but it's pretty magical when you can time it. It's almost like 45 days later, when it starts growing, it'll start blooming just like that. So, little trick just with just different things, different gardeners. I mean, my name's Ken. We're just friends. We're just neighbors talking on the back fence. This kind of works. That little trick works really, really well. It's surprising. So, roses. We don't get a lot of mildews, black spots. We just don't have that because it's so dry. I think that eliminates a few aphids, but that's so easy to care for if you just know what to look for. But roses grow better here than other parts of the country. All right, let's go with Tangerine crossvine. Another evergreen, full sun. This is really good. This is an amazing evergreen. Big flowers, hummingbirds just love. Grows exceptionally well in the valley areas. So it's kind of one of those borderline. I wouldn't grow this up in Groom Creek, but I would love to grow this out in Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, those areas. South-facing sun, just grows really well. This will go down to about 0 degrees. Sometimes the ridgelines can go a little colder than that. It's rare, but sometimes they can go colder. So I would leave it in a more sunny area or the flatlands. Tangerine crossvine, it just does this from April through Thanksgiving. It's amazing little vine. This is probably the last 2 weeks worth of growth. In fact, they're hard to actually merchandise, put it together because they start to grow into each other. They want to form a wall. They just want to grow into a wall.
Do deer eat those?
Deer do not eat this. Yeah. Javelina, nope, you're good.
Is that related to a trumpet vine?
No, it's not related, but it does look like a trumpet vine.
Yeah.
So trumpet vine is actually hardier. The trumpet vine you're seeing grow right now is a huge vine with great big red flowers like that. It's actually a tougher vine than this. Animals don't eat it, and it's more popular. But it is deciduous. That is, it loses its leaves in the winter. So grapes. This is edible grape. We have wild grapes to grow here. Grapes adapt really well here. You can grow up trellises. I've actually grown it up a deck before. Had it go over a lattice work, and grapes would hang down over top. I use it as a shade structure. Grapes would, it's like magical. It's like Mediterranean. But grapes do really well. And I don't think folks think of this. Another one they don't think about very often is this. This is a creeping rosemary. They don't think rosemary. They're thinking culinary or something. But I use creeping rosemary. This is as tall as it gets, and then it just puts on these long tendrils that you can use in the kitchen. But this thing will turn into this pretty easily. In a couple of years, it'll just turn into this 6x6, 5x5, something like that, flat type of ground cover. I've used it over a retaining wall to creep over and then crawl down, kind of soften that. Like life is so happy at my house. It just flows out over the beds and look how happy they are. It's that kind of thing. And mine has started to bloom again. So it blooms generally in March. Mine's starting because they're so happy right now. They're blooming again right now. It's real pretty, kind of lavender, violet kind of flower to it. A pollinator, bees love it. So butterflies are on it. So it's a good pollinator plant. But folks don't think of that one as much. I don't know why, but I think it's one of the preferred type of ground covers. This one can be a ground cover, or it will creep up anything you want. This is related to our native Virginia creeper. Virginia creeper has 5 leaves. This has 3 leaves, three-pronged leaves. Boston ivy, Virginia creeper, they are related. This one will self-climb. You don't need a lattice or anything. It will just simply cling and go up walls. We use this in commercial settings. If you got a sterile wall that's three stories high, this will crawl up and cover it.
What's the name?
Boston ivy. This is Boston ivy. and it's related to Virginia creeper. They're kind of one and the same. They both get real red in the fall of the year, like a bright red. Usually in about a month, you'll see them turn red. They'll be one of the first things to bloom, not to bloom, to go color in the fall. Easy to grow. It is deciduous. It'll lose its leaves in the winter.
Sun or shade?
Sun, 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 or shade, shade, shade. It'll take anything you give it. It'll just take it. So if it does have more shade, it'll tend to climb faster up to the sun areas. But it will adapt to whatever area that you give it. So it's pretty aggressive. On trellises, on walls, on anywhere you want it. Another secret too, so this one is, I use this one quite a bit. I've got a 2-story house overlooking the Dells. It's actually over 2 stories from the back area, so it's really heavy shade. We're facing the north. So it's very dark shade and kind of year round, but in the winter especially. It's kind of hard to grow a lot of plants there when it has no sun. And then there's a deck over that, a big deck. And so there's not many plants that will grow there. This one does exceptionally well. This is English ivy. And I use big pots. So I've got a big patio underneath this big deck. Kind of feels dark. So you want some living stuff underneath there to kind of soften. This is where we entertain. We're talking grills and hot tubs and fire pits. It's beautiful this time of year. It's made for entertainment. And the house naturally shades the whole area. So you don't need a bunch of umbrellas, that kind of stuff. For this, I just took pots. Planted the pots years ago, put it in the dark shade. It never sees sun. And I put a structure. So we've got different, I've got some that are pom-pom, some that are like pyramid shaped, these iron structures. I just keep it shaved to that structure. I don't let it grow. If you were to let it go, it just simply grow out of the pot, grow to the house, attach to the house, go up the house, go everywhere. But if you control it pretty, not fast, but consistent. It's just methodical. So not as fast as like a honeysuckle or something, but yeah, you'll see that it just grew out of its space. You didn't even realize it. It grows like that. So, but ivy, there's a place for it, but I would say it's more of a shade lover. You will see it in the sun, but it's more moist, it's more delicate in the sun. This is more of a half day or less kind of plant. It will shine for you. Evergreen, super tough, nothing eats it. Javelina won't bother it. Deer aren't on it. Rabbits aren't going to nibble on it. It's just bulletproof, consistent. Kind of an old-fashioned plant, but it does well. Let's see. That's the vines we got. So let me give you a little tip on which one. Let's go with this one. So with this, my first house I ever owned was in Prescott Valley. There we had 6-foot chain link fence. It screams I'm in jail. I had to soften this thing up to give it life. And so I planted vines at 8-foot centers. And I changed up the vines. I planted 3 honeysuckles and 3 akebias and 3. I just planted 3 just to soften it all the way around the entire backyard. It was a pretty big yard. It's one of the older houses in Prescott Valley, the early 90s. What I would do is every winter, I would take this vine, all the vines, I would shave it back as close as I could to the fence. I mean, we're talking, take my shears, within 3 or 4 inches. I didn't want to gouge the wire or dull my pruners. So I get as close as I could, and I fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food, this stuff. And that combo made for stunning, stellar vines. It just was a living wall on this chain link fence. So this food for vines is amazing. We'll cover that in a little bit, but don't let them overgrow their space. Trim them back. You almost can't prune vines enough. They like to be pruned. They like to be shaped. They like to take on structures and sculptures. You don't feel like you're hurting them. So, and it bloomed better. I had better flowers when I did that. So trim it back and get better flowers. That's a quick lesson. I would say that's the way it is for all of these vines we just mentioned. Shave them back hard, usually right before they start growing. And they'll start growing usually in March, into March, April. So I'll trim them back into February, first part of March. real hard, get them shaped. They look a little butchered. That's why I like to put them back right before they start growing, so I don't have that, oh my gosh, what do they do, look for very long. But if you know the spring season is going to hit in March, just cut it back right before then.
What if we're planting them now?
If you're planting them now, just plant them, let them go, grow them. They're probably going to grow another month and a half or so. Then they're going to slow down. Usually by Thanksgiving, that's where they're going to freeze frame. And you might give them a tip cut, haircut, but they haven't really grown. Next year, they're going to take off and go, woo. Next winter, you're going to cut them back and shape. Just keep them back to that structure, whatever that is. We've got all kinds of garden ideas in a class this size, so that's how you do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm from Ohio, and in Ohio, the honeysuckle, they couldn't have it because they took over a forest.
Yeah. Right.
So around here.
So our question for you, those folks online or over here, is she had honeysuckle. She's from Ohio. Welcome. So that's our family's from Ohio too. Wilmington, Ohio. There we go. Lots of Midwest represented here. So anyway, they grew like a weed in Ohio. Will they take over the forest here? And Toto, you're not in Kansas anymore. So no, they don't grow nearly as aggressively. In fact, you'll need to put a drip system on them to keep them. They won't grow just by themselves out there. They're not invasive like you would see in Ohio. It's at their native area. Here they're going to grow slower, not be as aggressive. So don't worry about it.
We put in some trumpet vines.
Yeah.
In April. They're not growing.
Okay.
I'm going to fertilize them.
Yeah. So you've got. Is that neat? What is that?
I think it keeps hitting your shirt or something. What is it? Yeah.
You take these off.
Yeah.
That's it. Or I
Something.
just want to keep everyone awake. Keep everyone online
Doing great.
in check. So I don't know. Maybe it's just.
So it's upside down. If you turn it like where it's facing up and then put it in your, right there.
Like that.
Yeah,
You
perfect.
still hear it?
Oh, yeah,
You
real
still
good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So trumpet vine. Go back to that. Let's just cover how to plant. Because if you don't plant it right, it'll stunt and just sit there and look at you. So it's a soil issue is what you got. So trumpet vine's not growing one. So trumpet vine should grow fast. Why isn't it growing? So fertilize. So I would say this fall, because you're already committed, it's already in the ground. What would I do now? I would give it two things. I would give it humic. Anything stressed in the yard or new, put this on. Humic is humic acid. Humic acid, for you organic gardeners, you know what that is, but you take a compost pile and just boil it right down to its last element, it's humic acid. Plants love it. And what it does, it doesn't feed the plant, it tickles the feet or the roots. So it gets it to root out, encourages it to root. So it feeds the worms, the mycorrhizal colonies, and kind of that attach themselves to the roots. It gets it to get a larger root mass. You need roots really bad. So that's number one. Anything that got beat up by hail, got spotting, anything that looks stressed at all, off color, put this on this fall. Do it now or just whenever. Just do it now in the next 6 weeks. Put it on. Doesn't matter when. Just put it on. And then in addition to that, this is what's going to make the plants grow. This is actually a food we put together for the mountains. And we know you're dealing with alkaline water. We know you have hard soils. We've made this for this region, and it really works. And it's organic. We're natural. You put them together at the same time. It doesn't matter which one goes on first. They totally work differently. This actually feeds the top growth and gets the plant to start putting on more foliage. The other one actually does the bottom growth. So they kind of work in conjunction. So anything stressed, and that's what you've got is a stressed out plant. It's bumping up against that clay soil and going, I don't know what to do with this. So hopefully you're setting the stage for next spring to grow. So when you're planting, let's just take this yew. Which one is this? Spreading yew. This is shade lover. Gets up about this tall. This does this, spreads out like that. So it'll get, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 feet wide. Evergreen. Nothing eats it. It just doesn't like the sun. So this is when you use on the north side, under the canopy of pine trees. There's places for it. but a great little ground cover. And it stays this rich green. The new growth is real light green, but it has this rich, deep green to it, and it's little red berries. They're real cute, usually around the holidays. So if I were to plant this, when I plant it, I would dig the hole so vines grow sideways. All the ground covers, they grow sideways. Their roots grow sideways. Their foliage spills out and shades the roots so they stay moist. So if you know that's how the roots are going to grow, dig a hole that's wide, not deep. No vine has a taproot, none of them. So don't go down, don't work that hard. I'm trying to save you some labor, laborious work and picks and shovels. But dig it 3 times as wide as a bucket, same depth, kind of saucer shaped. When you get your soil out, filter the soil so that you get rid of the golf ball size, any debris, anything bigger than, let's say, a golf ball. Tighter is better. Those bigger particles, they don't hold water molecules, and they just heat up and they bake the roots. They're just bad. And so it prevents that plant from rooting out as quickly. When you filter out stuff, some of you aren't going to have soil left. I've seen some of your soil really bad. Dig those rocks out of there. You don't want them. Then add some mulch to the native soil. Keep this up for the folks online. That show okay, Jeremy?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So compost or mulch, you folks in the Midwest, mulch is like bark chips, but here it's composted material. This we harvest from an old sawmill over in the White Mountains, and it's a 50-year-old pile. We just take it, screen it. It's composted wood products. And so you want to amend about 25% of this to your native soil. I've gone up to 50-50. If you kind of have a big boulder or something's in the way, you can fill in a little bit more. Don't go over 50-50. So ideally about 1 shovel of mulch or 3 shovels of native soil. Blend that all together. And then backfill around that root ball. Pack it in, water it really well. That's going to be the secret to allowing the roots to take off and to get through that heavy clay. Or if you're closer to Granite Mountain, you get this crushed granite thing that happens that doesn't hold anything. It holds that moisture food up around the roots, so it encourages the roots. We need the roots to go out. Once it starts rooting, it just takes off. It takes off growing. When I'm all done, I'll sprinkle some of this all-purpose plant food around the top of the soil. And this is what's going to, every time water hits this over the next 3 months, it releases a little bit of food over a very long period of time, which is ideal for new planting. So it's not going to burn, or you're less likely to burn with that. So I had one customer this year. What he heard was, yes, it was a man. Yes, I'm a man. I'm trying to get over it. But he took this and planted the plant, opened it up and planted the plant in the fertilizer. That's what he heard. I don't know how he heard that, and it killed it instantly. So we got him another one, but don't do that. This is made to go on top of the soil. When I'm all done, I'll water it in with this. This is Root and Grow. That's a compost tea. We've actually steeped up and boiled some tea. This looks like taro syrup or something. It's real deep, rich, like molasses. But plants respond. They're going to go into shock when you plant this thing. Water this in. About every couple of weeks, I'll use this. I'll add it to my water. This is concentrated. So 3 tablespoons in a gallon of water. I'll do it about every 2 weeks until I see the new growth. And once the new growth is gone, you go, oh, it's happening. It's taking. Okay. And I don't ever give it this again. Then I'm relying on this. So mulch, food, root growth. You need 3 things whenever you plant. For your plant, what I might do, just a little thought, you might get some of this and give it to that, just because it's so fast released. You might see if you can't get it to wake up. You get it to leaf some this fall. When it leaves, it'll start to root. It's kind of, you always leaf the root just like that. You get any amount of roots in the few weeks we have left, it'll help you next spring to get more growth. So it's a bonus. Okay, use, yes.
I have an odd situation. I had 3 ewes planted in front of my house professionally. 2 of them were perfect, 1 died. The same one. They replanted it, it died.
Yeah.
So I got a soil issue. And
Yeah.
I'm back into the house.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do?
So here's what he said, you folks online. We know you're there. Don't go anywhere. Hey, if you could, take a moment. It just, it really helps us as a small company. If you could just like, comment, or just react to the page at all. Google and Facebook recognizes us. Otherwise, all they recognize is PepsiCo, Apple, all the big guys, and the little guys are left behind, but it really helps us out. Oh, also go into Google and give us a 5-star rating. Not a 4, not a 3, not a 2, a 5. It doesn't matter. Well, anyway, what he said was 3 plants planted, 1 died, 2 are thriving. They've done it twice, they've died. It's pretty, I've heard this story many times before. What can I do to get that one to grow? It is a soil issue.
Yeah.
So you've got either concrete leached off, the contractor dumped something. You just never know what's in that soil. The soil's dead.
So
And the plant, you'll have to replace
two acrylic. I mean, 2 alkaline.
2 alkaline, probably from the concrete that was poured. I don't know. I've seen so many things over the years. I was just planting some bear grass in my own yard. I'm digging the hole and I get down and I get about this far down. I'm starting to get brick. So I've got brick facing on my house. They just buried the brick right in the yard to save a dump fee. It's $100 or whatever. They just buried it right, just dug a hole, dumped it in, pulled it over. I never knew, but the grass is not going to grow in that. So I had to pull it up. Like 8 bricks I'm pulling out. I don't know how many more were down there, but the hole was big enough. They're doing just fine. So something like that happened. So you're gonna have to dig that soil out and probably replace it or abandon that, go with a big pot or something decorative or get creative. I do have the Ken's 2 strikes you're out theory. If something dies, you can try it one more time. If you can't, change it up, get something different. Because at least you take one variable out of that planting. But if it dies a second time, change gears and do something else. Either a raised bed, a piece of a statue, anything besides plant the 3rd one. Or it's going to die again.
Or a big hole.
Or a great big hole. That'd be another one.
Then the hell.
Yeah, I would almost abandon the soil and replace it with different soils. So anyway, I hate to tell you that because it's a ton of work, but I can see what you want is an underplanting of views. It's pretty. Anyway, yeah, online.
Quick online question. I love clematis, but my rabbits keep eating mine. Is clematis best for full shade?
Yeah. So I don't know how to deal with rabbits, but if you get it old enough, get it mature enough, usually clematis will stem up and they'll stop eating it as much. Clematis does better in a half-day sun or less. So shade to about a half a day. The tag says it grows in full sun. Don't believe it. So it will grow in full sun, but it won't bloom very long. It just blooms and it fades right out. So the bloom, it looks much better. Your planting clematis for the flower does better in a half day. So morning sun, afternoon, from 3 o'clock on, doesn't matter. Just get it out at midday June. It's usually in bloom, late spring, early summer. That's pretty hot and dry here. That's what seems to be hard on it. In the fall, it's fine. So yeah.
When you were doing the mulch for the ground cover, where would you put the humic?
Oh, okay. So where do you fertilize? Either with the all-purpose food or with humic. So either one is the drip line. Don't focus on the trunk. So if my body is the trunk and my outer branches, these are the outer branches, focus on halfway out. All the feeder roots are out here. What's closer to the trunk or at the base is just big anchoring roots, great big barky, nasty roots. They're just as big as the trunk basically. They just keep the plant upright. All the feeder roots, real fine white root hairs, they're further out. So focus out here instead of at the base. It's a mistake I find some folks make with fertilizers. So yeah.
So I am trying to feed and fertilize plants that have been in for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of,
Join us, folks.
not putting it right at the base of the plant.
Yeah.
Landscapers, I'm finding, have put in the wheat cloth or
Yeah.
something
Right.
literally right to my plant.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, I'm spending all this money on food and fertilizer. It seems to me like I need to have this cut out.
Sure.
It's not
So-
really preventing weeds anyway.
Right. So let me see if I can reiterate that
Okay.
for folks online too.
Okay.
So she's got a now it's starting to be a mature landscape. It's been in for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Starting to grow. She's trying to fertilize, but the landscapers have put fabric right up to the trunk and rocked over right up to that. Do they kind of get that?
Yes.
So should we pull that landscape fabric back to be available to water, food, and that kind of stuff?
Right.
I don't think you need to go through that kind of work. I don't think. Now, we used to use plastic, 10 mil plastic, real heavy gauge black plastic. That was terrible. You had to pull that back. The new fabric, either woven, there's a couple different types. Water and food are designed to go through that fabric. So I don't think you need to do that. If you want to, that's fine. If you want to do an underplanting, let's say I brought this as an example. I like to plant to the base of my trees. This is called pukara, or coral bells is what your grandparents called it. This is a really tough perennial. I really like to plant these at the base of my, I think it looks awkward when you've got fabric and rock right up to the trunk of a tree. That's not natural. I mean, we don't live in Phoenix. That's when saguaros grow, but not here. We have pine trees. So I like to have this underplanting of this, and this will take the same water cycle as my trees. So wherever that emitter is for the tree, I'll put one of these, and it just grows and fills in. Now all of a sudden I've got a tree that comes out of this, looks like life is springing forth, which is what I want to see. So I use that often. If you wanted to plant something or put grass or something else, you could pull that back some. It wouldn't hurt, but I don't think you have to do it for the health of the tree. I think you want to do it for the convenience of the gardener for you. Or if you just like work.
No, it seems like though, I'm not sure if they use the woven, it kind of seems like it's more like the black plastic.
Yeah. So you'll know that would be terrible. So that would be, it is cheaper. So sometimes if they're just going by budget, by price, they'll spec that in. Terrible choice. It's a cheesy landscaper. So fire that guy. Yeah, whoever that is. Okay, anything else or I'll move on? You okay? Keep moving. Okay, so let's go down the line. I've got quite a few rentals. So, and there you need plants that just are so tough, you cannot kill them. I mean, no one who's living there can kill it. So I use a lot of junipers in my own yard and in my other properties. A couple of them I brought that are just tough, and junipers are naturalized. They just are tough as nails for here. I think there's a place for them. Everyone's afraid of junipers because of allergies. This little tiny thing is going to make no difference to your allergies. First of all, they don't have pollen. We've bred it so they're all the males and the females, and you're surrounded by huge juniper forests. Due to juniper allergies, you're surrounded. There's no way you can get away from it. So catalog shots. They got allergy shots for it. But these I like because they're not fast, they're just methodical. They're always growing. You can count on them. They look like this in the winter, they look like this in the spring. There's a foundational place for them. They grow on hillsides, on flat surfaces, and I think you plant these on the edges of these rock lawns that look so sterile. It gives it some light, gives it some, makes it look alive. So you plant them and use them just like you would water them like a tree. Once, twice a week, it's just fine. A couple times a month in the winter, they're good to go. So easy, methodical plant. I use this one a lot. For my deck, I look down on this beautiful, it's got ponds. It's pretty. I'm in a garden center. It's over the top. So it looks pretty nice. And I didn't put rock down. I wanted to look gardenesque, not sterile rock. And so I like bird gardening. So I'm trying to get this, it's got ponds. So I use mulch, top dressings, and ground cover. Chocolate colored rocks that they're spreading. This shines, takes the full sun, and just shines. It gives a good contrasting plant. The cousin to this is called buffalo juniper. This has been a #1 source since we've sold this for 60 years now. We've been open 60 years. This has been a core plant, buffalo juniper. It gets this tall and just spreads 6 by 6 by 6. You count them. Sometimes they overgrow their space. You know, don't grow over the great plant. Once it gets rooted in, that hill is not going anywhere. It's going to stay in place. It's got a massive root structure, which makes it so tough, so drop hardy. So junipers are
Full sun.
full sun. I would say full sun, take a blow dryer to it.
So they're fast growers, fast growers?
I would not call junipers
Yeah.
fast. They're kind of more methodical
Okay.
and consistent. There's some plants just have they get one branch and they put all their energy there.
Okay, all right.
This puts it all over. It's very, very consistent how they grow.
When
It's
you
a better
plant-
plant. We use these often together. So these two here, these two plants we often put together in designs. This is called blue rug juniper. You see what it's doing. It's only this tall. But it puts these long tendrils. It just grows like a rug sideways. It's almost like a replacement for a lawn. You really don't want to play soccer on it with the grandkids, but there's a place for it to look good, like a lawn. I've planted this over a rock wall, over a retaining block. That kind of softens it up, looks really good. And then this is Cotoneaster. This is also an evergreen. Takes the same light, same sun, same water, same everything. They're the same. They're companion plants, but you get a different texture. So sometimes you can get too much of this same thing. So you need something different to say, is this as tall as it gets? And it spills out, just does this. Has white flowers in the spring, which kind of gives it some interest. And then has red berries, obviously, in the fall and winter. Cotoneaster. Cotton Easter is how you'd spell it. So,
Hey,
great
Ken,
plants.
quick question.
Yeah, you got it.
Morning glories. I found a couple in my mulch pile. Killed them, right?
So no, don't kill morning glories. They're so pretty, aren't they? You got that big blue flower, purple, whatever that is. They are an annual. They come back by seed. So they're going to come back probably every year in your yard now. If you don't like morning glory, be aggressive. Don't let them get started. Don't let them go to seed, or you'll have the whole yard filled up with morning glories. So yeah.
What was the name of that juniper that you can plant over a rock wall again?
Blue rug, any juniper, but blue rug,
Calgary,
buffalo
or-
juniper, Calgary carpet. There's several of them. That's one. Pick the color you like, and then go with that one. So this is probably one of the most popular blue rugs, just because it's so low. It's almost too low sometimes, but it's really good. Let's say you've got some boulders. You want to have green creeping through the boulders. It's really pretty. So it works well. Yeah.
So the morning glory seat, I just had one my first year. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a light purple with a dark purple
Yeah.
stripe. Now, where's the seed at in the flower?
It's in the flower. So
It's in the
she's back to
flower.
morning glories.
Yes,
Where's
okay.
the seed in the morning glory? It's inside that flower. And once it's up, it blooms for like a day or so.
Yes, yes.
And then it forms seed and just spits them everywhere. They'll be everywhere. The birds will be on
Okay,
them.
sure I can take that little spent flower off maybe.
Yeah.
Would help that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find it pretty easy to start.
Yeah.
Little history of morning glories. I'm not allowed to sell them. So the cattle ranchers outlawed garden centers selling morning glories because they make cattle sick and they stop eating. They stop eating late. Ranchers want heavy, beefy, fast-growing cattle. And so they just said, no, in Arizona, there'll be no morning glories sold. They're everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you want those, you can grow them. Just got to import them from someplace else, like California, Colorado, someplace else. So you'll never find them here, or you shouldn't find them here. And they check on us. The ag inspector comes and goes, that's the first thing they look for. Seed dates, and they selling fresh seed, and do they have morning glories? Those two things, that's all they want to know. So, it's going to do, again, these are a different type of Cotoneaster, different type of junipers. You can blend them the way you want. Plants call to you. They speak to you. Pick the one that calls to you. Plant that one because they're pretty easy to grow. This is another one. This is euonymus. You East Coast folks like euonymus and boxwood. They're both kind of sort of similar. Evergreen. Euonymus does really well here. It's got a waxy leaf to it, so it's really frugal with its water. It doesn't perspire very much, so it's very conservative with its water, so easy to care for. This one's called Winter Creeper. It kind of turns a purpley, has a purple hue to it in the winter. It's really, really pretty. It's evergreen, but the new growth is gold, matures to green, and then has this purple hue to it. Really has a lot of striking changes to it. The only negative, rabbits like to eat this. So if you got rabbits, don't plant this one. Let's go with rosemary or cotoneaster or juniper or some of the other things. Too many choices. But we do sell a lot of these as a great ground cover. This will turn into a solid, it'll look like this, solid, this big around, one plant. She's real pretty.
Do the deer eat it?
Deer eat it, rabbit eat it, rats eat it, everything eats it. I don't know why. I've tried it. It doesn't taste very good, but they like it. But you got to show it off. It's a popular seller. Shade. Shade is actually harder to grow in than sun. These are all full sun. Shade's a little tricky. You got to be a little more careful. So I brought a couple shade things to show you. Some of the vines will grow there. So the Boston ivy will grow in shade. What else? The English ivy. I guess if it has the word ivy in it, it will grow in the shade. So Virginia creeper will grow in the shade. All the rest of them, full sun. I guess Clematis, you folks online, you asked that question. Good question. It'll grow in the shade as well. But really, you've got some of these are just bulletproof. Oh, I should show this one. Before I go to shade, I should show this one. This is a Manzanita. It's called Connect, but it's a ground cover Manzanita. It's related to our wild Manzanita. Has a red bark to it, evergreen, has a little white flower, bell-shaped flower to it. Once you get started, you can't kill it. So it's just a real great, looks like this. I plant these probably every 2 to 3 feet in a zigzag pattern. And they'll grow into each other, make this solid green ground cover, full sun.
What's it called?
Connect. Or ground cover Manzanita. Either way, you know what you're talking about. These are all shade lovers. I don't think animals eat any of these. This is Princess Nadia Ajuga. Ajuga usually is green. This is a variegated one, but it loves the shade. The tag says it grows in full sun. I've struggled with it. I just can't seem to get it to grow. I wouldn't believe the tag. I would go in more half day to full shade. It seems to thrive. And again, these lighter colors are really pretty in the darker shaded areas. It really brings out the light in that shaded areas. If you're designing, you do some great things with this. I use this in containers, raised beds. It's a perennial. It's back year after year. Yeah.
I have one of those. Is this one, are there different varieties?
There are.
Still light colors?
Yeah.
Because I have one that came in purple.
Yep.
And then it turned.
Yeah. So it does. So her question is, are there different types? Because she's had a Juga that had a darker color. Yeah, there's probably 3 or 4 varieties that we sell here. And I brought this one specifically for the design tip. Lighter colors are great in the shade rather than dark. Dark on dark sometimes just feels like there's snakes in there, or boogeyman's going to be in there. If you put a lighter color, it makes it feel alive, like you want to go and rest. Sit on the bench. This is probably another one. This is probably #1 seller. Anyone know what this is? Periwinkle or Vinca.
Oh, yeah.
Has a blue flower on it. It's a little blue, has 5 petals, blue flower. This thing is a weed. So it is, don't plant this in the middle of your flower bed, or in 3 years, all you'll have is this. So put it on the edge, it'll grow almost anywhere you put it. Yeah, it's a true weed in the shade. In the sun, it kind of keeps it in check. I plant this out on the outer edge of my gardens, where it kind of gets abused. So I sort of keep it in check. Every once in a while, I'll run a lawnmower over and just get back, you cussed Leo. So periwinkle, that's great. Let me get a drink of water here. You'll see huge beds of that. So one plant will turn into, from me to you in the back, that big with a few years. If you want that to be quick, plant more of them, but they grow fast. They have a runner that grows, touches the ground, roots, touches the ground, roots. That's how they operate.
I could pass the sign-in sheet around if you like.
Oh, that'd be great. I thought I forgot to print that. I'm glad you got that. Yeah. Remember, there's 2 handouts. There's 3 actually that I'm going to send to you.
We're going to send them via email.
Yeah, so digital, it's a PDF. So one is the best shade. All these shade plants will be on this list. I've got a whole list. Shade ground covers. I've got the annual vine growers, and then I've got how to fertilize. not just in the fall, how to fertilize throughout the year. So those 3 handouts, because it's so timely to feed the landscape. It's really, really important to fertilize that before Halloween sometime. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah. Okay, so Ajuga, this is fescue, a blue fescue. It's just a grass. The fall of the year, we should plant more grasses. Because we're just in the prairie, we just have a lot of native grasses that grow here. So they adapt really, really, really well. So this one you don't mow. This is made just to be pretty. And once a year, I'll take my lawnmowers up and shave over it, usually in March. Shave over it, fertilize it, grows back. But pampas grass is the great big one you're seeing in bloom right now. That's the giant one. You'll see a couple in the parking lot. They're huge. They're too big many times. But fall is when you see a lot of grasses show up at the garden center. And this is when they show off. This is when they're bloomed. They got all their flowers on them. It's the time to plant them. Give your best selection. But this one will grow in the shade, and it grows really well with things like, you put those 2 things together, you got instant design, just like that. Blue and gold. You can never go wrong with blue and gold. This one I grow, I've got a spot. I planted 3 of these in a triangle. It's turned into this huge, in fact, the dogs like to bed in it. It's just this beautiful green, lush, soft skin. It's a north slope, so it's got some shaded areas, but it has these little tiny flowers to it. Looks like a grass. It's almost evergreen, not quite. Some winter, this last winter, remember that heavy snow we had? Was that January or 1st of February, somewhere in there? Kind of got buried for like a month. Sort of it took it to chin, so it started to rot on me. So I've got it to recover now. But Liriope, Liriope, Liriope. There's no common name. It's just the botanical because it's such a freaky, weird plant. But it's a perennial. It comes back year after year. It's just consistent. It just groups. It's a clumping kind of plant. We'll turn it. This one plant will turn into this great big 3x3 space. Anyway, a blooming grass. You can't go wrong with blooming grass. All right. I think I'm coming down to it. Couple. What else they have? Then I cover some fun stuff. Thyme, mint, oregano, herbs. So herbs, actually people don't think of herbs, strawberries. I use strawberries often as a ground cover. Not for the harvesting the berries, but just because they're so pretty and they grow so fast. Get strawberries, they grow, touch the ground, root, touch the ground, root. They're just great. So in my lower ponds, I've got my rain harvest off the roofs, goes into the pond. The pond overflows. I got a lower pond that's just a retention pond, and I put the strawberries down in there. I'm trying to control the flow, get them on the slope, pretty strong slope. Beautiful views, pretty strong slope. So that's how I control that, and the strawberries love it. I've got creeping thyme lawns. When the kids went off to college, I said, I'm not mowing grass. That's over. So I downsized the lawnmower to electric that I use twice a year on my creeping lawn, creeping thyme. So I'm going to put pavers in. Most of it. It's a great big patio surrounded by creeping thyme. Super hardy pollinator. I know the bees and butterflies really like it. The dogs like to lay in it. It doesn't spot through the dogs and stuff. I use oregano quite often, mint as a ground cover. So again, don't introduce some of these in the middle of your garden or all you'll have is mint. Put on the outer edges. I want a ground cover at the base of my driveway where all the water kind of flows. So my kids are driving, have friends that come over and their cars are leaking stuff. Well, I don't want that going down the water stream or down in the yard. So I control it by right where all that water gathers, I plant mints, chocolate mints. And it just takes all the water, I don't harvest it to eat it because it's all the gross stuff in the cars, break dust and all kinds of stuff. But it controls the water flow. It's really pretty. It takes all that junk coming off the cars and it cleans up the soil. That's a win-win-win. And when the dogs walk over, it smells good. So there's a place to strategically put some of these plants to benefit you, the environment, that kind of stuff. All right, then I'll go down to fun stuff. Shall we do that? So the Snapdragons, first crop of Snapdragons just came down. This is kind of exciting. And so they just started to bud up, and we've got quite a few crops coming in. So there's 3 basic seasons here. How are we doing on time? We're just about out. Let's see if I can wrap this up. But there's 3 main growing seasons. Early spring, let me just define it. There's 5 seasons here, okay? Early spring is March, April, first part of May. That's early spring. It will frost. We will get snow. You got to have plants that can bloom and look good. That's when the lilacs, the forsythia, the pansies, there's a whole series of plants that love frost, bright days, cool nights. They just thrive in that. Then we've got, I define June as its own month. It's perennial month. That's when you find the most perennials at the garden center. Plants that come back year after year. The best selection, and they'll all be in bloom. So before that, we'll have perennials, but they're kind of like green blobs in a bucket. It's just, yes, you can plant them, but they don't look as good. They're not inspirational. June, they're all inspirational. You got every size, every variety. Then we go from July, August, September, summer. This is when crepe myrtles, your rose of Sharon's, roses, all that summer blooming, all the native stuff should start showing off. The desert willows, chase trees, these drought hardy xeriscape kind of plants. That's the summer season. We're fading from that. Now we're transitioning to the fall or autumn season. So that's when the maples start to go. Aspens turn gold. It's just a whole other transition. This decoration season, when the pumpkins come out and the mums start to happen. This is when fall, this all defines fall. Snapdragons come in. So again, these plants need to be able to take the cold nights, because we're going to get these Indian summer things. It's going to go real cold. It's going to warm right back up. It's these dramatic swings between summer and fall, flirting with winter, summer and fall. You need plants that can adapt to that. So that's autumn. And then you have winter evergreens, 5 seasons. You should dedicate 20% of your plants to spring, summer, fall, and winter. So otherwise they'll be off balance, like you'll look dead in the winter. You're like, wow, where did all the evergreens go? Where are all the plants? You need 20% evergreens dedicated in the landscape to that landscape, just to anchor the landscape. You need 20% of the summer flowering stuff, just so it looks really good. Things are blooming. We're outdoors enjoying it. You need 20% in the spring, just for the lilacs. You just have that burst of life going, wow, it's spring. We can be outdoors finally, and then it snows on you. So it's just kind of that spring season in the mountains. So that's kind of the 5 seasons. These are the autumn seasons. So mums. Also, there's 2 kinds of mums. Greenhouse mums grown. Those are floral gray. They're really pretty. They're at the grocery store, pretty much box stores. The greenhouse grown, they grow faster. We don't sell those. We're selling garden mums, because we know we're talking to gardeners, and they're grown outdoors, so they can be outdoors and planted, so they'll grow for years and years to come. Snapdragons are an autumn and early spring crop. We don't have this in the summer. We haven't had this in 3-4 months. This is the first, that's why I get excited. And it's a new pink. This is a sonic pink. It's got a lighter color to it. Pink and snapdragons go together, but just a different color. They smell nasty. Probably why animals don't eat them. So it smells like pee or something. I don't know. Not very good.
Great sales.
I mean, sorry. This is
We're over here trying to sell them here.
Echinacea. Echinacea is another fall, late summer fall crop. This is a perennial. Goes back year after year. Normally, or coneflower is another name goes by. Usually came in pink and like maybe purples. We're getting some exotic new colors, like orange on orange, just different kind of colors. They all really adapt well here, and animals won't bother this. So again, perennial, fall-colored flowers. You see the seasonal change of the garden center right now. So with that, I will. Ooh, sorry about that.
You have a blue flower in the back.
Blue. Where am I at?
On the right.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, this is part of my shade lovers. So this goes with anywhere those shade plants. This is plumbago. A Juba and plumbago kind of go together. The shade-loving perennial ground cover that spreads like this. So that's what it is. Thank you for noticing that. I'm sure I missed a couple others.
I didn't know what it was.
Plumbago.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good plant for here in the shade. So any last questions? Got everything? It's been an interactive class, except for you in the front. Go ahead.
I had a bunch of blue fruit planted.
Yep.
They're gone green. What do I need to do?
Good question. That's actually very good. So you had some blue spruce planted, and now they've turned green. What do you do to glue them back up? Insider tip, we get really, this is like horticulture 501 here, so all of a sudden. So they got a product down there on the shelf called aluminum sulfate. You want to put aluminum sulfate. The aluminum, the plant will pick it up, and that's what turns it green. So, and the drip line, yeah. I would fertilize it. I would fertilize it with this, the all-purpose food. But in addition, give it aluminum. And I would do it now, and I do it in the spring. Between those two, because you're going to flush, you're going to stay green until next spring. So what you're doing is setting the stage for next spring's growth to be blue. And that will almost guarantee you'll come back and go, Ken, you were right. Like, gardening in the back.
The clematis you said
Yeah.
are bunny food. Is there anything like a clematis that is not a bunny food?
Honeysuckle, they won't eat that. That's a bloomer. The crossvine, they won't eat that. That's a bloomer. What else? Roses are pretty good. They can eat some roses, which is probably most like a clematis. But sometimes you got to protect them when they're young. Once they're big enough, they get the bark on them. The bunnies aren't going to eat them. Or you need the bunnies to eat some because they're so aggressive to grow past it. But there's nothing truly like a clematis. They're truly unique as far as a mountain flower. Yeah.
I also have a very mature trumpet vine
Yeah.
that is invading my
Yeah.
yard.
Yeah.
And I'm out there with the pig trying to, and I also have a horrible problem with goat heads. What do you recommend?
So she's got two questions for me. Sorry about this online. You should be here. We miss you. I'll be here all day, but if you got questions, come see us. So goat heads are easiest. Goat heads, they're an annual. That's that one with the bird has the barb on it. You walk on it, it's like the dogs start limping. That's a goat head. Real pretty up top. When you turn it up, it's like thousands of these goat head seeds. It only comes back by seed. It's not a perennial. So you can control the seed, you can get ahead of it. So that's the place where your ground covers, once you start growing ground covers, that plant will not compete with that. They win, it loses. But sometimes you got a driveway or something. You got down the fence line, you just can't do that. And so there you're using a weed and grass stopper. There's actually a granular product you put down, you spread it, and then it keeps the seed from germinating. It doesn't allow that taproot to get down in there. Highly, highly effective. You're probably going to need to use it twice a year. Our growing season is so long here, so you're going to use it now. So really, you use it at the beginning of the year, January, and then June. So use it those 2 months. And January is when all the foxhead, horehound, all the nasty weeds, dandelions come up. There's a whole series of winter weeds that come up. It keeps those from coming up. And then June, right before the monsoons hit, usually July 4th, somewhere in July, we get rain. That's when all the tumbleweeds, goat head, all those the summer weeds come up. So you're doing it then, and it gains effectiveness as you use it. So as you use it more and more, it's better and better. So I don't have goat head any longer in my yard because I've been doing that for a few years. It's just gone. That's probably where you're going. Weed and grass stopper, or just choke them out. Don't let them grow. A goat head likes open soil. Now, your trumpet vine is very happy. Cut it off of all care. Cut back the drip system. Just kick dirt at it. Speak evil to it. Just don't let it grow anymore. Take a hatchet to it. Don't let it grow. It's too happy. Oh, it's huge. That's several decades old. Yeah, it may be time. Now, it's sacrilege to some gardeners. If it's really a problem, chainsaw. It's nothing like a man and a new chainsaw.
I've taken these baby plants and planted them in other parts of the property, so those are young ones.
Yeah.
But this old
It's too happy. It's too ready. It's too big. There's a time and place for things. Another one that's like that, Russian sage. We plant this big blue flower. It's got a spiky blue thing. They're good for about 7 years. And then they just turn mangy. They seed everywhere. They run. There's a time for them. And, a shovel will make those things pop out in about 60 seconds. There's no roots to them. I don't know how they grow. But I just replace them every few years. So I always have a fresh, new, beautifully shaped one. starting to get weedy, like your trumpet vine, dig that thing out for $20. You put a brand new one in. You're good for another 20 years.
I got
Over here.
little babies.
Yeah.
I got 2 trumpet guys and I didn't get them planted quick enough
Okay.
in your little thingy.
Yeah.
And I did water them, but I obviously screwed it up. So
Okay.
they look like they're fried and died. Is there any life in them?
There might be. So she took some trumpet vines home. It didn't quite water it enough, and it looks like they fried a little bit.
Before I planted them.
Will they come back? Trumpet vine will live if you give them any chance. And
Yeah.
they surprise you. They are truly drought hardy. They're very. I would not give up hope. I would put them in the ground and see, but you may not know until next spring. Really, if there's any roots left at all that has moisture in them, they'll come back. Yeah.
I just have one quick question. I have a
This is your 4th quick question. And you brought him with you.
And you came late.
And you came late. That's right. Get him, will you?
But my Coleus, I got a beautiful Coleus that came
Yeah.
for this summer.
Right.
And I cut it, and I put it in a jar of water.
Sure.
And I root it. Now what? I mean,
Good
I
question.
really want
Yeah.
it for next year.
Sure, good question. So for you folks online, so she has a beautiful Coleus. She took some cuttings and sprouted it, and rooted it in water. Get that right? Now what do I do if I want to grow it on? So water roots are different than soil roots. So that you can't just take that, throw it into something and it'll just take off. It tends to go into stress. There's a soil down there called seed starter. It's made for seed, but it's really good for water roots for what you're doing.
Okay.
What? So anyway, you put seed starter. Another one that would work is probably our Waters potting soil. It's our growers mix.
Okay.
It's light enough. You need something that really drains really well. Ideally, it's the seed starter, but either one, if you have some Waters potting soil, it'll work.
Okay.
Take it out, put it in that, keep it moist. It'll start to transition from water roots to soil roots,
Okay.
and you'll have another Coleus just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be pretty easy.
Okay.
That's another one too. This root grow.
Uh-huh.
This is magic. This is the best houseplant food you've ever seen. Plants respond to this. It's made for new transplant stressed out things, but this could really help you with the transitions.
Okay. So that's go in the house, and then I can plant it out.
Yeah, Coleus is not going to like frost.
Yeah.
It's good outdoors until about Halloween.
Yeah.
We usually get our first frost somewhere. Last year's first week in November. Usually the 100-year average is October 29th. So local gardeners use Halloween as the first frost date. So kind of watch that. So for me, my Coleus is like this. It's glorious. Oh my gosh. It's too big to bring in the house. I'm just going to let it go.
Okay.
And for $5, I'll find another one next
Yeah.
spring. It turns into this again.
Yeah.
It grows so fast.
Yeah, they
It's
do.
kind of fun to
Yeah.
take cuttings. Yeah. So with that, I've gone 10 minutes over what I wanted. I'll hang out. Feel free to take pictures of the tags. If you have other questions, they'll just be here. I'll put my mask on so we can kind of be as safe as we can. And then thanks for coming. But before you do that, kind of clap for yourselves. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Extremely well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm surprised that blind class is this many students. Usually I was thinking, we'll get 10, just light, because it's so specialized.